Welcome to Global Strategy Talk Show, 11th edition. I'm very happy to invite Mr. Rudolf DSouza. He's a global expert in knowledge management, and I'm very much willing to listen to you, Mr. Rudolf. Okay. So let me give a quick background of this event. So what we do at fruiStrategy, we try to bring global experts in each domain area which is relevant to strategy, and then conduct some events, webinars. We have two series: global strategy talk show series and then global strategy summit. So global strategy summits we do twice a year, and global strategy talk show we do every alternate week or every month, once in a month kind of. So the main idea is to bring the knowledge to the industries so that they get connected, and also it is helpful for them to gain the knowledge and practice it. So, on fruiStrategy is an enterprise strategy management solution which help your organizations to achieve excellence in strategy planning and strategy formulation and strategy execution. Okay, so I take this as an opportunity to introduce Mr. Rudolf D'Souza. So give me 1 second. Uh, Rudolf D'Souza is a leading advocate for aligning knowledge management with the tangible business outcomes. So he is widely respected for his success in embedding KM into core business strategy and operations. A former chair of KM Global Network, KMGN, Rudolf has been recognized as top 50 global knowledge management influencers, and is credited with pioneering in use of gamification to drive enterprise-wide knowledge management. So just to welcome sir to the show. So its show is
Thank you.
all yours. So do
Yeah,
just a
thank
quick
you.
introduction from my side. I'm Sheikh Abdul Khader, CEO of Data Labs India and fruiStrategy. So I'm moderating the show. I'm very proud to moderate the show with Mr. Rudolf. Uh, Welcome, Mr. Rudolf D'Souza. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kader. See, actually, today, this what I'm going to present is slightly heavy in terms of a bit of theory, but also in terms of how do you practically apply it. Because there's a whole mind shift that has to happen. And therefore, if you are finding it difficult, now I like questions to come up as and when they occur to you. If I'm able to answer it immediately, I will do so. And if it's coming up later, I will tell you. Okay. So I'm going to start my presentation, and
Yeah.
feel free to ask questions at any point in time, interrupt me, and I'll be happy to answer them as and when. The theme that I've chosen is about the frame that defines, actually, it's a
So did
frame
you
that
share the
defines the
screen,
painting.
sir? Did you share the
Yes,
screen?
I've shared
Yeah,
it. Can
yeah,
you see it?
yeah. Now it is visible. Yeah.
Now it is visible. Okay. And as and when I turn the slide, I will say that I've turned the slide so that you can check whether it has come or not. Okay.
Yeah.
So today I've taken a theme that the frame defines a painting. So actually, the frame in which we are looking at things defines the actions that we take. So it is important for us to understand what all we are currently doing, therefore, what is the painting that we have in front of us, and what all we could be doing in order to thrive in the new era, which is all about, I've changed the slide, we are facing a lot of volatility and uncertainty. And every single day, at least since Jan 20th, there are new headlines, there are new tariffs that are being put, some tariffs are being taken away. There is a lot of geopolitical instability that has been happening, and it has affected the way in which business is happening, especially in supply chains. There is also climate.
Sorry, your
So,
voice is little breaking. Just to make sure. Huh?
yes. Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better? And there is a lot of uncertainty because of climate. So with all these, how do we navigate into the future? Most human behavior is driven by short-term rewards or immediate battles. So whenever there is this new battles that are coming up, like AI or the geopolitical situation or tariffs, we tend to react. So we have the immediate battles. What happens is that we forget sometimes the long term or the strategic landscape that we should be looking at things. What is, um, I would say, constant, and what we should actually be looking at for the short term. So let me explain. When we are looking at the Indo-US battles that are going on right now in terms of the tariff, some leaders have forgotten about the long-term strategic interests of the partnership, and so therefore they are constantly harping on tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. But if the reaction from the other side is, oh, we will address these and they will start to fight, people forget the long term. So it is important that we really look at the long-term landscape. So now I'm going to take you through a little bit about the different economic ages. So if you see, the first was the agrarian economy that was lasted till around the 1900s. Okay, actually around the 1800s we started the industrial economy. So there was an overlap actually of the industrial economy, and that lasted till around 1975. Thereafter, it was the age of manufacturing. So we had large organizations that came up suddenly from nowhere, and they dominated the international scene, the international economy. For example, you have the Unilevers of the world. You had the car manufacturers of the world. Okay, so they started dominating across the world. Then around 1990, 2000, we had the information age. And it lasted a very short time, and then we've come into the knowledge economy. What I'm trying to say here is that whichever economy you are in, the source of competitiveness has to be the key asset. You need to own the key asset. When you are in the agrarian economy, if you had more land, that actually defined your position in the marketplace, because the more land you had, the more produce you could do. In the industrial economy and the manufacturing economy, it was a lot about the capital. The more capital that you had, the more you could dominate the markets. Similarly, in the information age, it was about the internet, and some companies started to dominate. They started coming out with their operating systems, etc. So that was the information age. It lasted a short time, and now we are into the knowledge age. So the key asset in all these is actually either land or capital or information or knowledge. Today we are in the knowledge economy, and knowledge is the key asset that we need to own. Don't get confused when people say, oh, we are in the digital age or we are in the age of artificial intelligence. Those are actually the ages in which we are in. But the economy is the knowledge economy. So knowledge is actually what we buy, sell, and do. When you look at an economy, what is an economy? Economy defines what you buy, what you sell, and what you do. From the time we wake up in the morning, the toothpaste itself that we use is filled with knowledge. So on the different teeth conditions that we have, the newspapers that we read, whether it is the Economic Times or the Mint or the Financial Express or the Times of India, why do we subscribe to these newspapers? Or it could be a feed that we have. The cost is negligible, but the knowledge that they provide you is something that you can act on. That is invaluable to you. And therefore, every single day, people will be using the newspapers. The cost is not much, but the information that they provide you and that information that you can convert into your business, into your knowledge, into your business is amazing. The products that we use, the phone today is filled with knowledge. So this is a knowledge product that we have in our hand. Bharat Matrimony or Shadi.com is filled with knowledge. How do they do the matching, the pairing, etc.? Or even if you look at other sites like Tinder, etc. So they contain a lot of knowledge. Google was a pure play knowledge enterprise. Similarly, ChatGPT today, which has replaced Google as our go-to software that we use every single day, they are actually they're fully knowledge intensive.
Can you increase the volume a little so that it's easy to audible, but it is low.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put the microphone a little closer to your.
Let me see.
Mhm. Can you try? Yeah.
Now is it better?
I think it's better. Lokesh,
Okay.
Andy, please confirm if it is okay. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yes. So products that we use are knowledge intensive. There is a steel company that makes these particular type of steel reinforcement because they are rust proof. They use graphene in that. They are higher in cost, so people pay the difference because the benefits are higher. So when you have knowledge actually adds a new dimension. It adds a new value to the products that we do. So actually we are in the knowledge economy. So knowledge is really what we are actually buying, what we are selling, and what we are doing. Look at your own business. Are you into a product that, or into a service that is very labor intensive, or are you into something that is knowledge intensive? Think about it. We'll talk more about that. We also value knowledge workers more. You have the workers, the laborers, the drivers, truck drivers, then you've got people who could be draftsmen, plumbers, etc. Then you've got the strategists in your own organization, and you've got the consultants. So the management, top management, etc. We pay more for the people who use their intellect more than people who use their physical labor. So when you are in the knowledge economy, remember that what you buy, sell, do, your knowledge workers, these are all indicators that you are in a knowledge intensive business. So I would like the viewers, audience, whoever's there, think about your own company. How knowledge intensive are you? Do you have a large force that is working? I was earlier consultant, and I was working with a construction company as the chief knowledge officer. So we had to really look at it as to where was the knowledge getting created. Was it with the workforce, or was it with the engineers that were creating the value? And it's actually a mix of both that we need to realize. And therefore, you need to understand that the importance is really in the knowledge assets that we are creating in the organization. For example, Coke. What does Coke consist of? It has sugar, water, CO2, and some flavoring. If you take the ingredients separately, the cost is hardly anything. But when you combine them, and that is the knowledge that you have got of Coke, you sell it at a higher value. So this is a tangible ingredients that you put in that gives you an output of a higher value. Similarly, you have intangible assets that you have. For example, when you go to a court, why do you go to a particular lawyer? Why do you go to a particular barrister? Some people are paid 5 lakhs per hour. Some people are paid 50 lakhs per day. Why? Because they take the same inputs, the facts which is raw material, knowledge of the law is your intellectual assets. They combine it and give you an output which is of a higher value. So you pay actually for a higher value. If you are going in for, let us say, you're just wanting to notarize your documents, you don't employ a high value lawyer. But if you are actually going fighting a case, you look for a person who has knowledge of the law, who can actually influence the judgment with the way in which the law is written. So in either case, whether it's tangible or intangible, the output is higher than the input. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, yes, yes. You can hear you.
So I have shown this picture of this actress. She was invited to the Oscars at short notice, and she went to one of these big fashion icons who was staying close by and said, can you design me a cap for this evening's function? And he designed this lovely cap, And she said, how much do I pay you? And he said, $5,000. Then she said, no, but if you look at all the material, it doesn't cost more than $50. So he unwound it and he threw it in her face and said, okay, here you can take all this for free and you can make your own hat. The value that he provided was in how to put all the ingredients together and make something which was attractive. So in our organizations, we need to look at what is it that we are really doing. And I'm going to give you now how you need to go about knowledge management and make it part of your strategic thinking as part of your strategy. So in the knowledge economy, there are three pillars. I mentioned knowledge is what we buy, sell, and do. Knowledge assets are more important than financial and physical assets. And to prosper, this is key. In the knowledge economy, we need to leverage the new knowledge assets. We need to also adopt different management techniques and strategies. If you look at the top companies by market capitalization, and these are today's figures, at the top you have Nvidia, you have Microsoft, you have Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom. At number 8 is a company that has got physical product that it is selling. The rest are all selling intangibles. If you see Nvidia's market capitalization, it is $4.3 trillion. Can anyone tell me what is their sales that they have? Actual sales of their chips. They have a market capitalization of $4.3 trillion. What is the actual sales they made last year of chips? You can Google it. It is only $60 billion, but they are valued at that much. Microsoft is valued at $3.7 trillion. Its sale last year was $255 billion. Similarly, Apple, valued at $3.5 trillion. It was the first company to cross $1 trillion valuation. Today it is 3.5. Its sales is only 391 billion. That is 1/10 of its valuation. Saudi Aramco has got a valuation of $1.5 trillion, but its sale, I have written the figure somewhere here, is $480 billion. It is more than some of the other companies, but its valuation is less. So these are the intellectual capital is valued more than your physical assets or your physical sales that you have. Similarly, you've got all the other companies. If you see only companies like Walmart, Eli Lilly, and ExxonMobil are actually companies that are in the old economies. All the rest are in the new economy. So you need to look at your company and see that, is my company in the old economy or in the new economy? And the to make. How can you improve your knowledge assets and improve your and therefore improve your demand in the market? So this is what we will be talking about. Any questions?
So far, so good, sir. Please go ahead. Just make sure that voice is.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's internet at my end.
Internet, yeah.
Maybe it's an internet
No
issue.
problem.
Let me put off my other devices. Yeah. So now we'll talk about the intellectual capital model. So when you look at the total market capitalization of companies, in the last slide I show you the top 20 companies. If you see the tangible assets of a intellectual capital company would not be more than 15 to 20%. The rest is intellectual capital or intellectual assets. These intellectual assets are divided into three parts, three components. One is the human capital, the skills and knowledge of people. The second is your structural capital, patents, processes, databases. And the third is your customer capital or your relationship with customers and suppliers. So please don't worry right now. I've gone a little theoretical, but I'm going to link it up into your business itself in a few minutes. Okay, so bear with me right now. This may get a little theoretical, but please understand this is very critical that we understand the intellectual capital model. So in our organizations, we need to start looking at the organization with a different lens. When we look at human capital, normally we look at, shall I take competent people, efficient people, etc. Today, when we start looking from the knowledge management perspective, we need to start looking at that. What is it that I can give them inputs so that I can get a much higher, more valuable output to my clients that they would like to do business with me? Or what services that I provide them so they would actually pay higher for it. So that is the human capital. The structural capital. Believe me, every company has different structural capitals. For example, you have multiple type of banks. Why is it that you prefer a Yes Bank or an Axis Bank to maybe a State Bank? But for some reasons, you want to go to State Bank or you want to go to public sector bank. That is what we call the structural capital. The internal processes that companies have differentiates them from competitors in the market. Please look at how you are different from your other competitors in the market. It has something to do with the processes that you follow, with the efficiencies that you bring. In some organizations, it is important to also have intellectual capital in terms of patents, in terms of the databases that they have. For pharmaceutical firms, etc., it is very critical. Software companies, Apple simply goes on filing patents even for something as simple as a twist that they give to the metal sheet of their particular iPhones. They keep on filing patents every single day, and for them it is very important. That is structural capital. The innovations that you produce, the way in which you create innovations, that really is your structural capital that you have in your organization. And the third is your relational capital or your customer capital, your brand, your relationship with your suppliers. It takes years and years actually to build your entire supply chain, to build a comfort level with different suppliers. Suddenly you'll get a call saying that, can you supply me so and so of this particular model? And how do you go about it? Can you reach this to me at a particular? It's a request, but you've got your suppliers, you have got your entire supply chain. This is the relational capital that companies create. Today in India, when we say make in India, what are we trying to do? We are actually trying to create an entire ecosystem of suppliers. And there are very few companies that are, say, in the automobile sector. There are just a few major ones, the rest are all very small companies that are providing you accessories. So how do they build up their relational capital with the purchasers? Okay, so everyone actually has to look at the intellectual capital model. Important one is here, tangible assets are less, intangible assets. It is how human capital, structural capital, and customer capital identify these. You've heard of things. I'm taking a lot of examples from India because I'm based in India, but I could also talk of international examples if somebody asks me for them. So Raymond's was known for their suiting material, basically their fabrics, textiles, etc. And they used to sell them in shops. Even today, you have got Raymond shops where you can pick up materials, go to a tailor and tailor them. The value added revenue that they were getting from their shops was not much. What they did, they used technology and they used human capital. They started identifying tailors who were master tailors, put them on their rolls. So when you step into a Raymond shop, they use technology to take your measurements, and then they pass them on to master cutters and master tailors. And a suiting, the material which would normally cost you maybe 20,000 rupees, they now are able to, instead of selling at 20,000 rupees, they now sell it to you at 50,000 to 100,000 rupees. So you can see how much layering happens because of the human capital, a lot in the human capital element. So the material which would sell at, say, 100 rupees is now selling at 500 rupees or even 1,000 rupees. When you go to Shoppers Stop, these are the big retail chains, like you have got Walmarts or you've got Amazon, not Amazon, Walmarts, etc. So when you go to Shoppers Stop, why do you go to Shoppers Stop? Because you know that I will get the same price, or you go to a D-Mart, you know that I've got these sort of goods, same price across, you know what to expect. So they have created a lot of structural capital. The processes that they follow are same across all the outlets, with slight variation maybe in across the different outlets. But they have focused a lot on their structural or their process capital. There was a big debate some time back that e-commerce is going to kill our local kirana shop. For knowledge of those who may not be from India, kirana shop is your 7-Eleven basically. So these are the mom and pop shops that are there. Till today, they're thriving in India because you got people like Manish from Lucky Stores, who's our go-to person. So when we called up one day and told him, Manish, we need a loaf of bread. The first thing is that today they say 10-minute delivery, etc. So they were already into that quick commerce. They would send it across when you required it. So he said, do you want another loaf of bread? So he said, why? He said, no, your husband has already ordered a loaf of bread. So you tell me which e-commerce company will be able to give you that relational capital that he has developed. Any questions on this?
Yeah, so far so good, sir. Very, very,
Yeah.
very, very inspiring.
Yeah. So every company, now look at your own organization. You have a combination of human capital, you have a combination of structural capital, and you have a combination of relational capital. Which one are you focusing on more? Maybe you require more process capital, your structural capital, or maybe you want more relationship. It depends. For example, you travel by Indigo Airlines. Indigo focuses a lot on the structural capital. You travel by British Airways. British Airways focuses a lot on the relational capital, the customer capital. They build such, the experience that they give is outstanding. But they may not be that classy as, let us say, a Turkish Airways. But still, people prefer British Airways to others. Whereas you know what to expect in Indigo Airlines. Indigo will give you this service and don't expect more than that, because that is structural capital. British Airways focus a lot on human capital. So each organization looks at things differently. So what works for you, what you should improve, what you should not, this is really what you need to be looking at. Human capital, structural capital, relational capital. So when we talk about the knowledge economy, it is like the solar system. So we have got what we buy, sell and do. Knowledge is valuable. It is a key asset. And we have to work through knowledge workers. We pay more. We have to improve the output of knowledge workers. And the intellectual capital that we are generating, we need to leverage that. This really is what knowledge management is all about. How do you translate it into strategy is what I will take it as we go forward. Any questions have come so far?
I think the questions will come now. Okay, so I just send a message to them.
Sure. Yeah.
So the organizations need to identify what is their knowledge management area. So how?
Yes.
Do you think all the organizations are aware of this kind of categorization for
No.
knowledge management?
I'll ask you.
Yeah.
I'll ask you. Are you aware of it before I
Very,
speak
very
on
limited.
this?
I have a knowledge
Yes.
of knowledge management, okay,
Yes.
as a whole, but
Correct.
you have very classic, you
Correct.
have very nicely structured it into various categories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because what people do is that when they look at knowledge management, they think, oh, it's a knowledge that is being generated. I need to capture the knowledge and share it around. They don't put it into boxes and say that, oh, I have to improve my human capital. I worked as a chief knowledge officer with a construction company. The processes were excellent, but we had to strengthen the processes. Secondly, the knowledge of people, because every time you look, suddenly now India is moving toward the bullet train. Where is the knowledge got to come from? So the knowledge has to actually come from by joint ventures. So you need to start looking at, okay, what is the knowledge that I require? Do my people term? The Chenab bridge that was built, it's a once in a lifetime project. Maybe that knowledge is not going to be required in future for another bridge like that. But the processes that they followed in terms of ensuring that the steel is weatherproof, that is going to come in handy in other projects. So that is the knowledge that we need to capture and put into our structural capital. Okay, so these are the important things. The relational capital that came out of that is in terms of who the suppliers for specialized steel. Which part of the world do we get that particular type of steel? Through your projects, you need to keep classifying these into your different capitals: human, structural, and relational capital or customer capital. So your market value is partly financial capital, the rest is intellectual capital. And like I mentioned, today your value is your financial valuation, 80% comes from an intellectual capital. Now this is a very key slide. If you are able to understand this, then I think my job is done for the day. Then the rest is just basically explaining this particular slide. Today, when you look at strategy or you look at your planning for the next year, everyone looks at what's on the left side of the screen, the tangible goods and the intangible goods that we have. What you need to look at actually is your intangible competencies and your latent capabilities of the organization. So when we look at strategy, we only focus on what is tangible, or what is my capital that I have got, what is my relationship, what are the type of business. The intangible part of it is what is the type of business I'm in, which are the type of clients or which are the type of industries I work on. We just focus on that. We don't realize that there could be latent capabilities that I have, or there could be competencies that I am not working on. So when you create your strategy, either you have capital growth and enhanced financial performance if you looked at left and right, or if you look only at the left hand side, the capital impairment and reduced financial performance compared to when you use both. This is really the function of leadership, has to focus on how can I look at that intersection and what is the possibilities, the latent capabilities. Okay, and I'm going to explain as we go along. This is theoretical, but we need to look at it. Organizations look at it, they look at the left hand side. It's clear ownership for this. Okay, so these are good for bankers, analysts, etc. and all, because we take loans from a bank hand. What is the source? This is really the source of competitive advantage. We call it capital weighting. They say it's immeasurable, but it is actually measurable. The ownership is a fact. These are very good for your corporate executives, your venture capitalists, and societal entrepreneurs. So when you started your consultancy, what happened is that earlier when you were in a job, you looked only at the left-hand side. When you started on a consultancy, you started looking at the right-hand side. What are the latent capabilities that I have? What are the intangible competencies that have been built up over the years? So this is really what people look at, and then they form their own businesses. And this becomes your source of competitive advantage. So organizations need to constantly have an entrepreneurial mindset, that while we are doing our business, for example, this construction company that I was working with, I constantly told them, we have an entire design team. Why don't we form a separate unit? They can provide design ideas to outsiders also, because foreign companies want to come into India, but they don't have knowledge of the local conditions. We had a huge database of the different type of geomorphology in the country. This is actually where you can actually create new streams of revenue in your organization. So this is very critical for business owners. What is my additional sources of competitive advantage that I can extract value from? So I've used this gaping void cartoon. Pay attention to what is important, what is quantifiable. That is the real takeaway from this. So what is the role of knowledge management? The first is, how knowledge intensive is the business? And then you have to identify and evaluate the role of knowledge in the business. Is it input? Is it output? Is it process? Taken my services, and it's strange because they have got actuaries who create the products. The actuaries are the one who actually look at life expectancy, they look at health parameters, etc., and based on the risk factors, they create products. So they felt this one particular company were not doing too well, but the products were outstanding. And they felt that, oh, the business is very knowledge intensive, but they felt that whoever owns a knowledge creates the most value. No doubt, they created, but this was value in waiting because the product was not out in the market. What you needed was actually the marketing department to create and share what the product is about, and you needed the agents to be trained on that particular product. So in this case, was it output? Was it process? It was locked. Value got locked in actually because the products were internal to the company. They knew they had good products. But how do you unlock it and make it into an output? And what are the process that you need to have? So we started looking at that. And in just 9-10 months, we were able to unlock a lot of value for the organization. So the first thing in the organization, look at your business. How knowledge intensive it is, who owns that knowledge, is that knowledge input output process, who creates the most value. First step. Second is match the revenues with the knowledge assets that produce them. It's my brand that is creating value. All too often there's a brand that creates the value customers in. There are some brands like Apple. Apple used to be an innovative company at one point in time. Today they are coming out only with marginal, or basically they are coming out with new products, but it is a brand. They are not creating anything really new. In fact, everyone says they are late in the race for AI. I have my different take on that. Okay, so you need to understand what is the revenue, these knowledge assets. Is it the people? Is it my innovations, etc.? And what are the mixture? Is it human capital? Is it structural capital? Is it relational or customer capital that is actually creating the revenues in the organization?
Sir,
In the case of Apple, may I ask?
yeah, so there is a question from Ribab. So, what factors can I use to determine whether I should place greater focus on human, structural, or customer capital? So, because it is relevant
Okay.
for what you are
So,
explaining.
no, no, absolutely. So you need to actually look at your business and see where the knowledge is getting created. And you see the sub question: whoever owns the knowledge, do they create the most value? Okay, so that really gives you a clue. I was working with a direct sales company. They had fantastic products, but actually it was the selling process that was really the killer app that they had. So the value came in the structure. People thought it was the people. The organization thought it wasn't the people, but it was actually in the way the direct sales process had been refined over the years that actually was, even if you had a poor salesman, you were able to actually ensure that the organization was doing well. This is a very tricky question that you need to actually investigate. Maybe put 5 people, 6 people on this, have a debate, call in an external person to come and actually evaluate and understand. You need sometimes external eyes to help you in this. It's a difficult question to answer, but a very relevant question. What is the mixture? Is it my human capital that is creating the knowledge? Or is it because of my processes? Or is it because of my relationship or my brand that is pulling in? Okay, so I hope I've answered it to some extent because I don't know the context in which it has been asked. But I've tried to give examples of a direct sales company, an insurance company, okay, a construction company, so different organizations. The third part is you have to develop a strategy for investing and leveraging your intellectual assets. So once you know where to put your money in, then you create a value proposition and say that, okay, this is where I'm going to leverage, I'm going to increase, I'm going to invest in. So your HR department, for example, in the construction company, we then formed 2 separate departments. One that was basically in terms of your people development, but the other was in terms of technical competence. We formed a separate department for technical competence. Okay, what strategies exist to increase the knowledge intensity of the business? So can you therefore, because this is your competitive advantage, others don't have it. So one of the companies that I know used to create, we are an extreme engineering company. So whenever there's an extreme project, they would be called in to discuss and how one would go about it. So they created their own aura about it. It was based on the structural capital. It was not based on people competence, because people would move from one project to the next. It was based, remember that very often we look at a company and we think it's a people. But in a project management company, a lot has to do with the structural capital, because people finish a project, move on to another project, but it's the structural capital that remains. So it depends on your business model that one needs to investigate. In what ways can the ability to leverage your knowledge assets be improved? Sometimes just a little tweak may be required. For example, in the insurance company, they had excellent products but were not able to get the revenue out of it. So the whole thing was that just the marketing department had to create the aura around the product, sell it in the market. The agents had to be trained well on how to close the. Okay, and then finally, we have to improve the efficiency of knowledge work and knowledge workers. How can we improve the productivity of knowledge workers? Okay, this is a key question. Today, with artificial intelligence coming in, this is either a threat or an opportunity. I read the other day that for every blue collar worker that is going to lose his job because of AI, there are going to be 10 white collar workers who are going to lose their jobs. Now, this is a very scary statement. How do we get our people to harness the power of AI for improving the business of the organization, creating a value out of the organization? There is going to be a lot of bloodbath in the market. I can tell you that in the next 5 years. Is your organization going to be one of the thrivers, or it's going to be one of the people who will go down? We need to look at this. So that's why knowledge management is very critical at this stage. Archimedes said, if you give me a pole long enough and you give me a ridge, I will be able to move the earth. This is what knowledge can actually do. There is no relation between knowledge input and knowledge output. For example, Airbnb. At one time, they were more valuable than any of your Marriotts of the world, because the knowledge input that they put, there was no correlation between it. They just put all the efforts into their product. The cost of producing knowledge is little affected by how many people eventually used it. I'm talking of Airbnb. Lot of effort was put in the front loading, okay, but hardly any marginal production cost. Unlike in a car, you put a lot of cost upfront in your R&D, etc. But for every car that you produce, there is a marginal production cost. Whereas when it's a intellectual product, you put a lot of effort. You can take 6 months, 1 year to come out with a product. But afterwards, it just simply explodes. You can leverage it easily. And with the knowledge, where knowledge is a product, the return to skill is vertical. Like Google or like Chat GPT. The investment that they put and the output, Chat GPT is yet to actually scale the way in which they're supposed to. But in 5 years, 10 years, compared to tangible asset organization, they will earn multiple times the return. As it is, their market capitalization on a $60 billion sales is $1.4 trillion. Okay, so look in your organization and see what is the knowledge that I can leverage. Can I move away from a product which everyone has to something that people don't have? You take a look at people like Thomas Cooks, or you look at Veena World Travels. While they have a general product, they also offer customized packages. The margins are higher on that. So they have that knowledge from a general package, but there are some people who want to say, no, I don't want to travel in a group. I'd like to travel on my own. So they've created products out of that. Similarly, can you create niche products based on your mass market that you're currently meeting? This is a very key slide. Then this is actually how you put it all together. You need to have a knowledge platform, you need to have a knowledge architecture, technology, and culture. Everybody focuses a lot on technology, That should only be the enabler. The entire thing is really what is your strategy, and then the rest fall into place. And there are steps for understanding your intellectual capital. So quickly scanning, etc., protecting, understanding what to leverage, what I've covered earlier. I've just summarized it here in these 4 steps on the lower part of it. But people focus a lot on technology. They feel if I have throw more technology, I will get the outputs. But no, unless there is a planned strategy around it, technology is only an enabler. Today, everyone talks of AI. What is your strategy around AI that you need to have that is going to help you build your intellectual capability of your organization is something that you need to look at. Also, very importantly, is culture. How do you build the culture of the organization? So, when we talk of the knowledge architecture, there is a whole landscape. Actually, knowledge management looks at innovation, personal development, organizational development, change management, business improvement, information management, data management. It's a whole ocean out there. And within that, the green patch that you see, there are many, many, many different type of small little things that we do, communities of practice, or database, lessons learned, etc. So knowledge management actually encompasses the entire organization and changes the organization culture. I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty. If somebody has any question, they can ask, but they can always refer back to me. In the company in which I worked in, where I was the chief knowledge officer, we had this learn before, learn during, learn after model, where during it mapped to the project life cycle. So at the start of the project, what all do you need activities you need to do during the project execution? What are the knowledge activities you need to do, and afterwards? This involved the employees part of it. As part of our charism, that is the KM team, we had to look at what are the knowledge assets that we are generating and how can we leverage these assets for future business. So that was our role. So we kept people busy, improving their capabilities, improving their competencies, looking at the latent capabilities that they have, how can we shift it into actual implementation. But our role really was looking at the intellectual capital model for the organization. We also had knowledge ambassadors based on different projects. You need to create a human sensor network so that you are able to actually understand complexities that are going on. Today, you've got a sensor network, the conniving model is there. There's a lot of complexity in the market. How do you involve your customers in giving you back inputs? Customers give inputs actually to the person who's interacting, but the person trained to pick up signals. There are weak signals that are happening in the market even today. How do you train your people to pick up those signals and share it back with management? So management has a dashboard and says, oh, there is a shift that is happening in the market. I remember I joined one major IT education company in the year 2000 at the height of the dot-com boom. Everyone told me, the franchise, it was a new business for me. They kept telling me, something is wrong in the market. Our career courses are failing, career courses are failing, career courses are failing. When I spoke to management, they said they are not doing enough effort. Tell them to go to colleges, create more market activation, etc. 6 months later, the entire market crashed. There were weak signals. I was new to the market. I didn't know how to interpret it. Management was using traditional blinkers on their heads. No, they're not doing enough effort. They have to put more effort. Are we in that trap today? Can we create a human sensor network so that stories that are coming from our clients, from our customers, from our employees are fed back to management and is incorporated into our strategic thinking? Very key for us today to do, especially in a complex world that we are in. There's a lot of fun also element that one can do, a lot of gamification. Every year during the Olympic Games, I create a knowledge Olympics involving the entire organization so that people can have fun at the same time solve organizational problems. We put all the organizational problems into different games, create countries where they fight for the flag, and through that knowledge gets generated. You create knowledge assets for the company. You can have, for a manufacturing company where I had done this, they had a lot of unsold inventory, old products. They were wondering what to do for new products, what new products should come out in the market. Employees were dissatisfied. What can we do for employee satisfaction, customer improvement? We ran dream teams. customer, employee, profitability, processes, and new product. So this was another way in which we engaged employees and made them productive, created dream teams, come out with ideas that we need to implement, pilot it, show us the results, and over 2 years we actually changed the culture of the organization. Here was another project, Expedition Everest, where we changed the entire competency of every employee, because that was a challenge given by the managing director. He said, I want competence of every employee to be improved. So over a 6-month period, we actually created an environment where they thought they were conquering Mount Everest, and they had to take challenges every few months, conquer the challenge, move to the next stage, and finally reach the summit. 5 people are then taken around Mount Everest in a helicopter. That is a fun element. We created a Senate, etc., had elections where the employees could pass bills that the management had to listen to and implement. People said, this is not knowledge management, the guys are having fun. So while knowledge management is a serious subject, and the first part of my presentation was very heavy, the way you implement it is actually you need to have a lot of fun in the organization in order to bring out and build the organization culture. So at the end, if I need to summarize, know-how is today the key source of competitive advantage, and organizations that are growing fast are managing their knowledge, the innovation complexity. Business models need to change quickly. Tangibles make up only 18% of corporate value. Bottom line is, if you don't manage your intangibles, you're not managing 82% of your organization. That's why knowledge management is so critical. And you need to pivot. Move from your current way of thinking about strategy, think from a knowledge point of view, especially because tomorrow we are waking up into the age of AI, but we're still in the knowledge economy. Knowledge is everything. How do we then therefore pivot our thinking in order to thrive in the new age of artificial intelligence? Knowledge management fosters innovation, improves decision making, enhances customer service, boosts revenue, enhances employee retention, and streamlines operation and reduces costs. It actually adds to the intellectual capital of the organization. I have 5 minutes left.
Yep.
I felt this would be a good time for questions.
Excellent. Excellent, sir. So one question from my side is maybe
Yes.
you can stop screen share and then we can talk about that if it is to make it easy. Yeah. Okay. So now if you consider it's very important. Okay. So you talk about different type of processes you need to do it. It's excellent. Okay. So now, um, first of all, organizations don't really pay attention to knowledge management. Okay, so that is very alarming topic. Okay, so what is your advice? So there are different kind of organizations. When you saw a structural like construction, other things fine. If you talk about a manufacturing organizations, if you talk about services where knowledge is everything. So what is your advice for a typical companies of different sectors? So how can they introduce knowledge management and then practice it and embed it in the regular business processes?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So actually, every organization is different. So you just need to understand the basic principles. Okay, so the principle could be that, okay, I have human capital, structural capital, and relational or customer capital. In my organization, like I said, the 4 steps are very simple. How knowledge intensive is my business? That is the first step you need to take. You need to look at it. How intensive? Where is the knowledge getting created? Who is creating that knowledge? Now, is that knowledge that I am using, do I have to improve my processes in order to improve efficiencies? It normally is the case. There's always scope for improvement in efficiencies, but that gives you only incremental boost. Is there some knowledge that I have that I can now hive off and make it into a revenue stream for the organization?
Mm.
That is really the holy grail that we need to be working for. So improvement will happen when you have knowledge management. That is definite. That is a given. But how you go about it, and people need to be actually understanding that knowledge management is really a like your blood that flows in the organization, that is nourishing the entire organization. It is not a program that the managing director says that I need to implement in the organization, and therefore everyone does knowledge management. Sits down, creates assets, and sends it off as a tick mark in the box.
Yeah. So
But
they
each
have a couple of
organization is
questions.
different. Yeah, each
Yeah.
organization is different. Yes.
So there is a couple of questions. I take the second one.
Yeah.
Neeraj. So usually KM is considered as a bucket of repositories. So this is
Yes.
a very interesting question. Yeah, would you like to answer that? That's Mhm.
Yes. See, normally what happens is that in organizations, people think that knowledge management, and that is also a problem with us in the knowledge management field, that we have looked at knowledge management as a repository, and therefore the processes around it. People, I am one of the few advocates who said knowledge management has to be looked at in order to unlock business issues. Knowledge management has to address business issues. So the whole idea is that knowledge management is a repository that has basically been ingrained over the last many years. Knowledge management is not that. Knowledge management is good for decision making. Knowledge management has to be your strategic competitive advantage, and that has got forgotten over time. So it's never too late, because we are in the knowledge economy. You should actually use knowledge management differently. Repositories are very critical, because people leave, you need to have the knowledge. So I still say knowledge repositories are critical. It should be
critical.
live. Artificial intelligence can help out also today. There are techniques for that. Okay, but it's mainly in terms of understanding the strategic imperative.
So one question is from Andy. How do you deal with resistance to change and avoid that employees uh, consider KM another task on top of their everyday job? Yeah. It's a
Yes.
very important
So
question.
yeah. So actually, what we have done is the fun element comes in. So we have created campaigns. Okay, so one is in terms of uh, uh, creating challenges in the organization. So we say, okay, if we are facing this issue, burning issue, can you contribute to it? So form teams, okay, form dream teams, etc. So what we've done is we introduced gamification a lot in the organizations. Even in a serious construction company with which I worked, everyone said, you have worked in a sales company and you use gamification a lot. In this company, it won't work. But human tendency and the human propensity to actually be able to, they want to share knowledge. I always believe people want to share their knowledge, but they don't have the opportunity to do it. And you need to recognize them for it. Otherwise, it's becoming a this thing tick mark that, okay, we need to, every project we do, we need to put in a knowledge database. Can you recognize people for the unique knowledge that you've brought to the company and been able to share it? I hope, Andy, I've been able to answer it.
Yep. So there is one more question. How critical is the push from top leadership? So what is that? See, who is responsible? I think it's obvious that everybody is responsible. But how does the top management plays a key role in embedding this?
Yeah. So Neeraj actually hit the nail on the head. If top management is not convinced about it, then it becomes what Andy says, it becomes a drudge that people have to do it for the sake of work.
Mm.
If top management only launches it and then talks about it now and then, but doesn't give it the importance. I worked in a company where the top management used to actually ask people in the meetings, hey, what have you contributed? Can you talk about it?
Mm.
In the construction company, when we had the quarterly reviews, hey, tell us, have you put that into the knowledge database? It would be very interesting. Why don't we have organize a webinar around it? Would you take the lead on it? Management enabled it.
Enable.
Okay, and this company said, from world-class VPC, we want to be a knowledge enterprise. They then showed that how much they were convinced that knowledge management is a strategic function. that is really what top management can do to make or break any initiative.
Correct. And this
And it
can
is the
be,
role of the knowledge manager to convince top management by showing them where all we have brought value so that the management gets convinced.
great. I think when you are using any strategic framework like balance scorecard, something, so you can identify strategic objective explicitly for knowledge management, so people pay attention, or you can just embed knowledge management into the other goals, other objectives. That also possible. So if you, I personally feel that you can have one objective for strategic objective for knowledge management, and then you can have a KPI for that. Okay, that is possible, and then you can have an initiative to do that initially. Okay, once it is rolling, maybe you can do that. So what do you think, Rudolf?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I always, and this is my experience, don't make it a strategic KPI in your review process. The moment you do it, everyone games it. And then it becomes what Andy said.
Mhm.
It becomes a drudge that people want to do. Don't use it. But talk about
Mhm.
it and say, okay, how have you contributed, and recognize people? This is something that they have brought up, and we appreciate the person for it. Recognition is a lot. Don't give monetary rewards, give a lot of recognition. That I feel, don't put into your KPIs, etc. That defeats the purpose, because then people look at it, okay, I get 5% weightage in my appraisal. Let me just finish this off, or 15%. Let me do something there.
Yeah, it depends, because it's not only the KPI. KPI number will not come just like that. Okay, so you have to deliver value, but how you define that, that depends. Okay,
Yes.
so it's not just like filling the template or something, sir. So for each organization, what is the value you
Yeah.
want to create, and then maybe you don't need to call it as a knowledge management objective. You call it something
Yeah.
different in a different way,
Correct.
but your intent is there, that you want to
Yes.
address a critical knowledge management topic in this strategic goal, in directly or indirectly. So that way you
Correct.
can recover. So while designing the strategy itself, you embed this indirectly
Yes.
or directly, so that you don't need to tell explicitly this is like a knowledge management, something like that. But you
Correct.
consider this information
Yeah.
also
Yeah. Yeah.
properly.
Yeah. So in your balance scorecard, because balance scorecard actually has the 4 elements, so you can actually ask people at the end of the day, how have you used your own skills or your competence in order to overcome these issues, and that actually talks a lot about how they have contributed knowledge to the organization.
And who is if we have, I don't know whether there will be any position for knowledge management or something explicitly for especially mid-sized organizations. Maybe for large organizations they will have. So how to structure it? So I know it is joint responsibility, but somebody have to have the accountability so that the things keep going. So what is your
Yes.
advice?
So normally, we would normally put it as the person in strategy. Either the person in strategy would head that, because at the end of the day, he's going to
Hmm.
look at how the deliverables, or the operation head, but he's too busy actually to
Yes.
run knowledge management. So somebody
Hmm.
just below him, who reports into him, who is senior enough to be able to command respect in the organization, so that he's operationally in charge. So that's how it would really work out in a mid-sized organization.
Perfect, sir. I think we are already 5 minutes late. So, any final thoughts for organizations,
See, one of the
for
things
the
is that
participants?
yeah,
What is your
yeah,
advice?
yeah.
To,
See, today, don't get confused. We are in the AI age, but we are actually in the knowledge economy. It's knowledge that is providing the value. So look at how you can enhance the knowledge, and don't lose your sight that you look at human capital, structural capital, or relational capital. Look in your organization, see where value can be actually enhanced, so that it provides revenue streams, provides competitive advantage, and takes the organization further.
Perfect, sir. Thank you very much. Very interesting and insightful discussion. Thank you for a wonderful lecture, and I can see that. Okay. So if anybody would like to have the presentation, please let us know. We will put, and this video will also we'll keep it in the channel. Those who missed, they can watch it later. And if you have any questions to Rudolf, please feel free. We can just reach Rudolf and then ask questions or take any help or any advice. Please feel free. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a wonderful session today. All participants, expert guest, and then the organizers. Thank you very much. Thank you and have a great time. Thank you.